traveling through this world of woe, yet there's no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright world to which I go. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is rough and steep, but golden fields lie out before me, where God's redeemed shall ever sleep.
Hello and welcome to Tea Time Theology. My name is Taylor Wilkie. Today I am joined by Ivy Swinsky.
Hello.
And Jarrett Kerbel.
Hello.
And today we are talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 9, All Those Who Wander. Or is it Those Who Wander? Unsure.
I didn't write this one down.
I think it's All Those Who Wander.
Is it All Those Who Wander?
Yeah.
Which is, one of those cool titles. It's like,
Yeah.
not all those who wander aren't lost.
Yeah.
This episode is really great. I think personally that this is one of the not great episodes of Star Trek, but one of the great examples of a great episode of Star Trek, because we've spent 8 episodes learning who all these people are. They were very intentional. Everyone got a moment. Everyone got an episode. And now we are firing on all cylinders, and we are being dropped into a situation where everybody's skills are relevant.
I'm just laughing because I'm looking at both of our notes, and we both just wrote Team Hamura. Yeah. And I don't even remember why I wrote that.
We wrote Team Uhura. Oh yes. It's because there's a scene where Uhura and Hammer are in engineering, and Hammer says we're really good as a team, and Uhura says Team Hamura, and I'm all like, yes, Team Hamura.
But I just love that we both watched the episode and we both wrote. It's very rare that our notes are the same, so I just really appreciated that.
One of the things I like about this episode, especially in the beginning, is that it's one of the it's a shuttle mission. Mm-hmm. Shuttle missions are great. You don't get shuttle missions very often because it's all transporters. I love it when you get to a shuttle mission when they say we cannot transport you down, because that means that this episode has stakes. Mm-hmm. This episode there's a barrier to, oh my God, we're in too much trouble. Oh my God, we're in too much trouble. We need to get out of here. And they just get beamed out. They can't just beam out. It's one of my favorite tropes, I guess.
Yeah, and the Enterprise gets sent away too.
Right.
They're off to another mission, so they're isolated in every way, and so it's a perfect kind of closed room horror story right here, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I love that Kirk's brother is in this in a big way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is
Though
really
he
good.
came for Spock unnecessarily. I was like, Sam, calm down. I was like, leave my Spock alone. He's fine.
Sam lost his hairdo there. It was a little hysterical. I was like, what's going on with
I was
Sam?
like, babe, calm down.
Chill, man.
What are we doing?
That's really funny. My wife and I love watching Star Trek together, and the second there's a shuttle mission, she'd be like, someone's gonna die. Probably some red shirts are gonna die.
Right. Well, in this one it was a gold shirt.
It was a gold shirt, a brand new gold shirt.
Yeah,
Very sad.
he got promoted in the opening scene once again.
It's such a bummer.
Yeah. Once again, Pike is doing his feeding ministry to the crew. We're gonna have a meeting in my cabin, and I'm making everyone breakfast.
Yes.
And apparently the eggs were fire.
Try the bacon. And Pike, he's doing that nurturing ministry that we have talked about, and he's also doing this nurturing thing where I'm going to take these people in their last kind of away mission with me, just to kind of you could tell it's kind of his nurturing leadership style to kind of just keep the work going as long as he can with these people he's bringing up as officers. And it's there's a heartfelt leadership quality to that I resonated with and I really liked, even though he got him killed.
Right.
But he didn't try to. It was an accident.
It was an
Yeah,
accident.
I mean, Uhura was going to make it. We all knew because she's a legacy character.
Yeah, right. Legacy.
With that poor cadet, girl, the other girl who.
The girl, yeah. She got gorned.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I really, really enjoyed Mbenga's burn in the pre-title sequence on Spock. Because like Spock says, like they made an unplanned emergency landing, and Mbenga was all like, "Are emergency landings ever planned?"
And he delivered it into his breakfast, kind of in
Yeah.
a really subtle way. Spock took a lot of crap in this episode.
And unnecessarily. I was like, guys, leave him alone. He's
Aw.
fine.
Well, and something I wanted to bring into this conversation with Spock is it's a great action episode, totally stressful, and there's these like themes of intimacy woven through it and trust. And one of them is the Spock trajectory.
Yeah.
You know, Spock and T'Pring, is that
T'Pring.
T'Pring, thank you, and Spock and Chapel. That's one kind of arc, and then there's the Uhuru and Hammer arc, but that also relates to Uhuru and her ability to trust and be part of the crew, right? So it's in the midst of this like really horrifying encounter with the Gorn, which is like to me one of the great enemies Star Trek has created. Ugh.
They're terrifying.
I've been there. I've been to that place where they shot that episode.
Oh, yeah?
In the original series. Yeah, that was a really cool thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, the Vasquez Rocks in L.A.
Oh wow. Oh, the
Yeah.
very angled rocks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is that where Kirk makes the bazooka?
Yep.
I loved that episode when I was a kid.
I'll show you the picture I took after we're done.
So cool.
But you just brought that up. One of the things that happens in this episode is earlier in the series, in the season, Uhura kind of confesses to the crew that she is unsure that Starfleet is the place for her. And this episode kind of, and in that Hamura scene, she kind of says like, you know, I think that I've decided I'm not gonna stick with it. I'm done. I'm gonna graduate from the academy, but I'm not gonna join.
Yeah, and she has the backstory of trauma too with her parents' death, right? Both parents die in some bad way. And she has a hard time trusting. That's part of her character. She has a hard time joining.
Yeah.
So I guess the question, I mean, Hammer is very the whole vibe of that scene in the second episode was like, you know, if this isn't the path for you, get out of the way because there are people walking behind you that need to get through. But you know, this is kind of like the end of her academy training, and I guess the question is like, Jarrett, when you were in seminary, when you get to the end, was there anybody who you knew who at the end of going through the whole thing said, you know what, no, not for me?
Oh,
and what did they say and why, and what did you say to them?
That's a great question. A lot of different paths from seminary for people. You know, some people went academic. Some people. One of my friends went into filmmaking. Yeah, he was the son of a prominent Presbyterian pastor, and he decided the pulpit wasn't for him. And he was also gay, and I think this was early '90s. We were active in ACT UP together, and so he, you know, wanted to do advocacy, wanted to do filmmaking about important subjects for social change. So he definitely used his seminary education in a really creative, alternative way. Some people graduated probably with worries on their heart, but they just made this big dedicated time and money, and they got in their first gig and quit because they're like, "Is this ministry?" You know, so they're in my seminary's on the Upper West Side of New York. It's, you know, hopping and interesting and progressive, and then you get sent out to Central Ohio to 3 Methodist churches, and your big ministry is putting together the bean supper. You know, and there's some burnout there. There was some early quitting because it was like, it's not what I signed up for, and it's a big. from seminary to your first call is a big leap.
Would you say that Starfleet prepares their candidates better to join Starfleet than seminary prepares priests to be priests?
That is a great question.
I'm just going to shoot it right there.
Well, yeah, it seems interesting because the ensigns always seem to be just thrown into mayhem, right? I mean, it's just like, you go back to San Francisco and Starfleet Academy, and it's all very kind of spiffy clean. And, they got the Kobayashi Maru, but, they know it's a exercise. But then they get on the dang starship, and I'll never forget, it was Bones in one of the movies. It's like space, they could, the skin of this ship can rip open, and I could be like flash frozen, and my gut spilled out. Whatever. That's not exactly right, but it's like they get thrust into the most dangerous kind of job in the world, and it's almost like a gigantic space hazing, right? And it's like you go on the away team, and you're like confronted with like microbes that are going to eat your brain, and I think Lower Decks does a great job making fun of that. That kind of like the incredible hazards that they undergo. So serving at church is not nearly as hazardous as the Gorn.
That's fair.
But it has its own pains that you can't prepare somebody for.
It's true.
There's been a lot of work on mentoring clergy early in their career because seminary can't really prepare you for what you're about to experience.
I think that youth has something to do with that too. I don't know how young people are. I don't know how young people who are coming out of seminary usually are.
It's a wide array.
But like if you're a young person, and I see it with people coming right out of college, like kids coming out of college, like they're like young and they're hungry and they want to do great things, and like you sit them down and you say, you're doing this today, and they're like, well, in college I was doing this, I'm going to do that. Yeah, but we don't need you to do any of that. We need you to do this. And there's an expectation that you're going to be doing big things in your life. And if you're not doing big things right away, especially after you spent a lot of money, there is a resentment there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's why most revolutions actually happen among frustrated higher college grads. Most revolutionaries are actually college-educated people who are really angry that the society let them down. The Uhuru, though, in her case, she's like a super genius, right? I mean, she's like exceptional in every way, right? That's kind of part of her story.
Aura?
Yeah, isn't?
Yeah,
Am I wrong about that?
Well, yeah, she like speaks like 17. What is it? Like 37 languages?
Yeah, and she
because like 38 of them are from
Africa.
From Africa.
Oh, okay.
She's the the comms officer.
Comms officer, right? Yeah. And she was the great revolution in the first series was having this wonderful black bridge officer who was very powerful.
She doesn't get a lot to do in. There are some good stories in TOS with Uhura, but I think that she really shined in the animated series. They really did a good job of elevating her position, giving her a lot of things to do, command decisions, because she's a lieutenant commander. She's not like an ensign or something. She's actually in charge of stuff. And I think there's a great episode in the animated series that gives her, I don't remember the name, but it's great. One of the things that Hammer says, because this is a very like hammery episode,
it is,
which is nice. And one of the things I think Hammer says is when Uhura says, "I don't think I want to be in Starfleet anymore." And he kind of says, that's okay. You don't have to be. It's not a big deal. Starfleet's, you can come and go, whatever. But he says, you should make a home for yourself amongst others, and you will find joy more often than sadness. And that's references to that Uhura seems to be isolating herself again. She opened herself up. She has this family on the Enterprise, and she's regressing back.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think we do that as humans?
That's a great question. I mean, community is hard to risk. Community is essential for human life, and it's hard to risk. And this is another way this episode, I think, addresses the current moment. Is loneliness is one of the biggest struggles in our culture right now. It's loneliness, loneliness, loneliness. We don't know how to bond. We don't know how to be together. And we don't have a lot of venues to do that in some ways. And the skill level for doing it is going down. There's actually a skill level for being in community. And this is hard for me because there is no Christian journey without community. It's not a solo sport. Yes. God gives you people to love that are difficult to help you learn how to love. You don't get to, this whole idea that you get to choose your neighbors, choose your community is deeply against the grain of what Jesus taught. We need to be in community with people we disagree with, who annoy us, who tick us off, because that's how we grow. And if we self-isolate, we also end our growth in a profound way, our growth towards neighbor and our growth towards God.
Two things. One, I saw a meme that said, community is opening yourself up to annoyance. And I just really loved that because I was like, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Amen.
But I'm reading this devotional book right now that I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
It's called God Didn't Make Us to Hate Us. And I know, I love it. She's so brilliant.
That's awesome.
But one of the things that she said in one of them is she's talking about the Trinity and how God himself is community, which is why we need community, because he built himself to be that way. And it was one of the first ways anyone has ever described the Holy Trinity in that way that I had read, and I was like, that's really cool. But I love this idea that like God is community, which is why we need that as well.
I think that's absolutely right. God is community and God is mutuality. That inner mutuality of the Trinity is so powerful as what total giving and receiving and permeability to love looks like at its apex. And that's something we're trying to grow into. It's a hard growth. And I'm really glad you shared that. That's right on target. And I think we see that across this episode in multiple struggles for community. So there's Spock trying to deal, this is early Spock trying to balance that human Vulcan struggle that's inside of him, that inner struggle. And it's playing out around rage and having let that rage out. He invited the rage because he needed it. And it's fascinating because, it maps out on like our adaptive struggle in life, right? If our emotions have been big and hard for us, we try to shut them down. But then when they come back bigger. Yeah. And it's hard. And how does he have a relationship with Nurse Chapel? And how does he have a relationship with his Vulcan bride, fiance, whatever she is? And that's just this one track. And it parallels the track with Uhuru, I think. And it parallels the track, interestingly, with Mbanga when he steps between the security officer and the girl they find on the ship and says, leave my daughter alone. He's in this projective space where he's like paternally wants to protect this little girl because he's thinking of his daughter who he just recently departed from. And once again, it's how do we there's a really intimate space in the middle of this horror.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this episode is it shows what happens when you don't deal with your own trauma. It like shows all the way. Like, can the next spinoff be like whoever the like therapist is for Starfleet, and like we just follow them on a ship. I don't even care what the ship is. Like, they are the main character.
That's awesome. Right.
We'll pitch it to Paramount. But like, I think what's really interesting about this episode is it is like what happens when you don't deal with what happens to you. Because like Spock not wanting to tap into his rage is because like he pretty much says like, if I go there, I don't know if I can come back. And like the same thing with La'an, that like she doesn't really want to deal with her Gorn trauma, like Uhura doesn't want to deal with her trauma. Pike's just here trying to hold everyone together and being like, guys, we gotta make it through, babes. Like, so it really is like what happens when you don't take care of yourself.
That's great. Yeah, and Pike's so interesting too because he's a haunted character because he's had that vision at the beginning of this whole thing of how he ends, and of course, at least I met Pike in the original series and the funny, funky wheelchair thing.
The Beatbox Chronicles.
Yeah, and so he has this horror ahead of him, and he's the guy holding it all together. He's kind of the mother hen in this situation, the center of it all. And yeah, La'an is interesting because she at the end of the episode she takes off to kind of deal with some stuff, right?
She goes to
Right.
find the girls.
There's a redemptive story there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's when I was watching this, I felt like this episode was the season finale. This was the season finale.
This was. We did not
Like
need
we did not
10.
episode 10. Episode 10 could have been put before this, and I think that would have been better for it.
Sure, I did not like episode 10.
Well, the episode 10 was a
I
callback.
haven't watched it yet. No.
Have you really not? It's okay.
Have you seen Balance of Terror?
Which one?
Balance of Terror.
Which one is
That's
that?
the one where if like when Kirk is fighting the Romulans on the border, and at the end is like in a different time. I could have called you friend.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right,
it's a retelling of that story.
Oh, okay.
So, it's
It is
fun.
good. Watch
It's
it.
fun,
I'll
but
watch it.
This is not the best.
but it's fan service. It's pure fan service.
Fan service, okay. Well, you brought up therapy earlier, and I'm thinking about, it made me think of, now I understand why Troy was on the bridge for Next Generation. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Deanna Troy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a therapist on the bridge.
Well, that's how unhinged Picard was.
Is that what
like,
that was?
like this man is so unhinged that he needs his therapist next to him
right
at all
next to him.
times.
Sorry, that's really care.
Yeah.
That's deep.
But like you said, like if there's an episode that you want to watch, if you want to watch a character be Starfleet counselor, find some Deanna Troy episodes of
Yeah.
Next Generation. That's what
Yes.
her job is. But like you said, La'an gets to. One of the things that you get to see in her is we get to see her interact with a person that reminds her of herself. What happened to this little girl happened to her.
Yeah.
She watched her family die. She watched she went through this whole thing. She was the lone survivor of whatever colony ship she was on.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that whole tying up of that story.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing that's important to remember about Leon is that, like, her narrative is that no one else has experienced what she has, which is, like, a really lonely place to be. Because I think part of it is she isolates herself, but, like, the other part is, like, no one actually knows what the Gorn is like besides her. Like, I feel like we established that, I think it's, like, episode 3, when Pike, like, doesn't even believe her when she's like, it's the Gorn. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, trust me. So, like, I think what's interesting about her is that she does also finally have a true kinship with someone who, like, understands the horror that she have. And it's almost like, when people say, like, oh, I got to heal my inner child, which I think gets overused. But, like, I feel like she actually gets to sort of do that a little bit in this episode where, like, she gets to treat this child the way she wished, like, her narrative was treated.
That's so cool. And because she also gets caught up in projection on that child in that very tense scene, I think in the med bay. And they, because you could hear her guilt and her incredible ambivalence from her trauma being projected onto that child, right? It's like, well, why didn't you do the right thing? You ended up killing. I mean, she basically blames the child for killing the people, you know, and that has to be coming from some deep level of shame and guilt in herself. And it definitely showed a need for healing in her. And that poor kid, I was like, hey, it's okay. This kid's doing the best she can.
That's an interesting thing you bring up, this idea of shame, because I think there's also a lot of shame in this episode. Like the way that I think Uhura does feel a little bit ashamed that, like, she has, like, not stolen this spot because she, like, fully earned it, but I think that she does sort of feel that, like, she's stolen this spot from someone else who really wants it. I think Spock is feeling a lot of shame with his like two personalities, that he can't be what the community needs, because I think he does want these people to be his family, but he can't be what Sam needs him to be in that moment. And like I think M'Banga is feeling some shame as well about like what happened with his daughter the episode before. And I think it's interesting if you put those two lenses of like not dealing with trauma and then feeling guilt about the choices that you've made on top of that. I think those two things are happening here.
That's really right on. And I think early in the episode, I think it's during the breakfast, and Pike, in his kind of folksy way, starts talking about getting everybody in the station wagon, right?
Yeah.
And Spock's like, what's a station wagon? Like, Spock got to be the straight man in this episode and take a lot of crap. But there was a shot over to Lang. Am I pronouncing that right? La'an. And she just glares at Pike in that moment. Did you notice that? And I'm like, what is that glare about? And why did they include this? She's like kind of eating her meal, and she kind of like in almost a very teenage sort of way looks up and says, "You're cringe," basically. Pike, you're cringe. And it was like, it really stuck with me because it's like, it just to me added to her character's dealing with a lot of stuff and needing to grow up.
And I wonder if you see parallels between sort of their interactions together and like after Holy Week, like on that Saturday, with them being in the upper room.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to guess you didn't see that, but let's see if you do now.
I don't know. I don't know what any of that means.
Okay.
Help us out here. Help us out.
Okay. No, but what I'm sort of thinking about is like, they're all very trapped in this way, and they're all dealing with their own stuff in this relation. And I think that's a lot about how the disciples react right after Jesus dies, and they hide in that upper room. That's like their whole narrative, is that they're like scared and hiding. And I feel like this episode is kind of not an allegory, because I don't think if we asked the Star Trek people, they were like, yeah, we were totally doing that. But I do think there's some interesting parallels between the two. And if you try and see how different people react in those moments, I do think it's interesting to think about the really human emotions of that hiding.
Yeah, I'm following you now, and I get it. I think it's really, so here in the Bible, we have this traumatized community. They've just had their leader and their putative Messiah, murdered, lynched in front of them, and dying a horrible death. They ran, which caused them to be ashamed, right? They didn't stick with them to the end, and they didn't really understand what the whole thing was about. And so there's all these levels of shame and embarrassment and betrayal and trauma on top of it, and they're hiding for their lives in this upper room. And here we have this, there's a name for this kind of drama where you kind of close people in a room and they have to figure stuff out. But here we have a community trapped in a small, claustrophobic, dark, cold space, having to figure something out, all dealing with their own traumas, and no one has a full perspective on the situation. And interestingly, the episode is kind of the saving in the episode is through a sacrifice. Hammer very graciously sacrifices himself, and almost an operatic ending, where
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. He just, and he's happy kind of because it feels like he's home in some ways, and it's like, wow, and that role of sacrifice and the need for something to be paid to get release from the situation is powerful, and they clearly had the need to write that into the episode to get release from the situation, or to ground the episode in what's real. It was really powerful. I mean, at first I'm like, okay, this is a horror episode. This is like so cool and interesting, but there's all this other stuff going on too. It's not just a horror episode. It's like, which I think is cool, because like existence is full of scare and horror. And we try to work out our stuff through that, in the middle of that. Just kind of a Mary Shelley moment here, It's amazing. Yeah, great episode.
Yeah. This question might not. This next bit might not make sense, but we have
Try
time.
us.
We have
Great
time.
start.
We handled what Ivy said.
Yeah. We have time that we have to fill. We got to get these people their whole commute to work. One of the things that's said at Hammer's wake, or when Uhura was eulogizing Hammer. She says, the people you love most can cause you the most pain, but it is the people you love that can mend your heart when you feel broken. And then she says that is what Hammer's purpose was.
Right.
To fix what is broken.
Yes.
Which, as a person who works in the engineering space, that's so meaningful to me. Engineers, we are here to fix what is broken.
I love it.
But as Christians, is that our purpose? To fix what is broken about the world?
Lovely. Well, before we get to that, can I dwell on one thing from the funeral scene or the memorial scene? I didn't buy those flags. Like the Starfleet flags bugged me. The way the way they're folded in the triangles in front of they're shiny. I don't like shiny flags. I don't know. Something about it didn't. There's no way they could fold the flag to make it look like that. So anyway, they look like a prop. I had an issue with it. As a guy who does funerals, I just had a little issue with that small thing. But you're right. There's a concept in the Hebrew Bible called tikkun olam. Tikkun olam means for the healing of the world. And that's what Israel exists to do, is to heal the world.
They're doing a great job.
Well, I mean, Israel in the biblical sense, not going there. Israel in the biblical sense of the God's chosen people, which Jesus becomes the new Israel, right? And he exists to heal the world. And that is the mission of the church, to be in a reconciling, healing place. Paul says it straight up. What's the mission of the church? To reconcile us to each other and to God. That's actually the mission of the Episcopal Church in our catechism, if you want to take a look. And but it's gotten kind of forgotten or downplayed, because to understand it, you have to understand that humanity without divine intervention exists as enemies of God. And it's this, our enmity with God, our enemy status with God, is what Jesus heals through his sacrifice. But most people in their day-to-day kind of middle-class bourgeois life, we don't think of ourselves that way. Sin in the Episcopal Church has been underemphasized, in my Calvinist opinion. And because of that, we don't get a clear picture of what is at stake and why it is so intense and played out in terms of life and death, right? So, I think we do have a role in healing the world, and that's why, me a little bit. I show up in places like protests and marches and sit-ins, or hearings at the state capitol, intense, stressful places, or at school committee meetings where people are beating on trans people, and I want to stand up and protect the trans people, because that's part of the. Why are you there as a church person? I'm like, because people are being oppressed and abused. That's why I'm there, and that's where Jesus would be. And I often say to people, like, I'm not experiencing Jesus or God in my life. What's going on? It's like, well, maybe you're not where God is, or God is leading you. Maybe you missed an exit ramp. Maybe if you were working with the poor every Saturday or Sunday, you'd have a more lively experience of God in your life, because that's where God is. People don't get that. That's where God's everywhere on the golf course, blah, blah, blah. That's actually not a good description of how our God functions. Our God is preferentially with the poor and the vulnerable. And if you're not there, probably no surprise you're not experiencing some of the grace you need to experience. Ooh, boy, I ranted there. Sorry.
That's okay.
I got on my soapbox.
You mentioned something that we don't do enough about sin, or talk about enough about sin in the Episcopal Church just now. Can you expand on that? Like, why is that really important?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Because I come from a Roman Catholic background, and that's one of the reasons why
I know.
I am I woke up this morning feeling guilty that I woke up this morning.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm traumatizing you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
but why? Like, and that's one of the reasons why I guess I kind of like one of the things I kind of pushed. Sorry, what really pushed me out was there's a lot of stuff that the Roman Catholic Church says about LGBTQ people that I generally disagree with. But the guilt is there. There's a heavy emphasis on you exist. You should feel guilty about existing.
Exactly, and I think that's a horrible use of the church personally. And part of the reason that I was raised Episcopal, so I'm coming at this from a very different angle. So I think the Catholic Church does that in some ways as a mechanism of control, right? If you feel guilty, you need the priest to get out of your guilt, right?
Yeah.
In the Episcopal Church, we don't play that game. But what we've kind of done is become a church of comfort. Let's just make everybody feel okay. And the problem there is the things we're called by the cross to interact with are really difficult things that are painful and hard, and the consequence of human disobedience to God, which is sin, human conflict with God, which is sin. And if you can't name that and put it out there in a healthy way without people wallowing in guilt, I mean, the goal is not to get people to wallow in guilt. The goal is to say, oh, our actions do this to God's world. Like, so let's take the environment. Because, the Catholic Church gets really focused on what my wife calls pelvic issues, like pelvic sins, and which is not helpful. I mean, and actually a very small part, a tiny part of anything Jesus ever said. He was not caring about pelvic issues. But say the environment. Yeah. Right? I think it's pretty clear that we're damaging our world, that we're taking this gift God gave us and crapping all over it, and hurting our neighbors by doing that. And that, to me, is easily described as conflict with God. God wanted us to be stewards of creation. When we don't act as stewards, we get away from God. That's sin. Do I need to take a lash to myself? Do I need to say I'm a horrible person? No. But I do need to notice the pain that's caused and find ways to repent, turn away from that path, and go on a new path. And I think there's ways to do this with what I call healthy guilt. Because a lot of times what I hear the Roman Catholic Church doing is not healthy guilt, it's shame. Shame is I should feel like there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Guilt is I did something wrong that I need to stop doing. Guilt is moral pain. My friend Barb Ballinger calls it moral pain. And I can relate to that because I've done things wrong that I feel deep pain about because I violated my values and my conscience. I also think, and this is more contentious, that there's something called healthy shame. Okay. And healthy shame is when you do something so bad that you really have to question your whole character. If you violate your integrity and your character to such a degree, you legitimately can ask, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Now, no one needs to be shamed for being who they are. That's the unhealthy shame, which we've heaped on LGBTQI people historically, right? You should be ashamed because you have these desires that you want to love this way, blah, blah, blah. I'm totally against that. But if my classic example is, if I am walking down a street in Providence and there's an old lady with a walker going by me and I go out of my way to shove her into the gutter, what's wrong with me? Right. I mean, I just didn't do something wrong. I actively attacked that person. So, and by the way, I'd never done that, but it's just an example of where there should be some appropriate shame, and shame can function as a social constraint. But shame is it's a big topic for me. But
no, it's okay. It's definitely one of the reasons why I didn't like where my faith journey was taking me. As a young person, and it's one of those things like you grow up, you're born, your parents are a religion or they're not, and you eventually and then as you get older, you start learning things and you start understanding things, and then you're like, and then all of a sudden one day you're in a space that you've been in your entire life, And you're like, these people aren't, from what I've been taught in my journey up to the wise old age of 17, I like to say there is nothing worse than like a 20-something-year-old man in the world. Their 20-something-year-old men are just like the worst. But, and I'm like, I just don't want to really participate in this anymore because I think it's harming folks.
Absolutely.
And for a long time I was without a religion because I was like, I thought that religion was what that was teaching me. And it was a revolution when I showed up here on a Sunday.
Nice.
And I was like,
that's awesome.
Wow, this is like, this is real great. This is what I've been kind of looking for.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think that's brilliant. And I think what I would say is you had a healthy voice in you. That your soul had a healthy voice that said, this is not right. And so I think you followed your soul and you followed God's path out of an unhealthy environment that was doing nothing to help you thrive and flourish and grow into a place that is more oriented towards grace. And the priority in the Episcopal Church is grace. And that's God's priority because God acts with grace towards us before we do anything. We never earn God's attention. We never earn God's favor. It's delivered to us. And our whole spiritual life after that is growing deeper into it and responding to it and seeing where it takes us. I mean, it's such a gift, right? I don't have to earn God's love. I am loved, and then I become ethical, right? People forget that being loved is the key first step. Fear of punishment does not lead to ethical life. Yeah. Love leads to ethical, moral life. And that's our gift. And it's a journey, though. I mean, and we make mistakes, and that's why we continue to talk about guilt, but we don't. At least I try not to shame or guilt anybody. I generally feel that when guilt is appropriate, people will feel it. And that's all they need to do. They don't need to further punish themselves. The guilt is its own punishment, right? So when I do confession with people, and we do individual confession in the Episcopal Church, but not a lot of it, but I'm usually like, the person's already beat the crap out of themselves before they got there. It's not my job to lay it on. They know they did something wrong. My job is to speak a word of comfort and grace to them so they can redeem the situation. And that's more grace. So. Well, Star Trek.
Yeah. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the episode?
I just loved this episode. I thought it was really, in its darkness, it was very exposing. I mean, there was this kind of like you said earlier, we've grown with these characters now for 8 episodes, and we saw them in this episode under intense, harsh pressure, like reveal who they were. I don't know why Sam lost his hairdo exactly. I mean, I guess he's a little bit of him and his brother have passion as a character.
Right.
They're passionate.
Well, I also feel like what was hard with Sam is like we haven't grown with Sam the same way
That's
we've
true.
grown with everyone
that's
else.
fair. Yeah.
We're like I kind of feel bad for him as a character because I feel like he's just brought in to like mess things up a little bit with the like core ones.
Yeah.
Because like he's only been in like 3 or 4 episodes this season.
The existence of Sam as
Taylor's pain.
Okay, here's hot take. Here it comes.
Okay, it comes.
I don't understand why we need a Kirk on the Enterprise.
That's fair.
Like in the first episode, they're like, get Lieutenant Kirk up here, and I'm all like, Lieutenant Kirk, why? And then I'm like, and then there's like Sam Kirk. I'm like, and it's like, is this? Like, this is just like a relative of Captain Kirk. Like, why did this have to be Kirk's brother? And in season 2, there's a really great scene where between Kirk and Sam, and Sam was kind of laying into him about like, how dare you do something about our dad's legacy, blah blah blah, and like Kirk is like, well, I'm out here doing good, and I guess the point is that Sam is saying like, you're on the Stargazer or whatever ship Kirk is in charge of right now, and Sam is like, I don't know why you think I'm not a first officer yet, but that doesn't matter because I'm on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
The Enterprise is the Enterprise goes to finals every year. I am on the ship of the ships that exist. I am on this is the A team of the Federation.
We're going to regionals.
There's no reason for me to take a step down to leave this ship to take a promotion.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
But I don't know.
He also plays off Kirk, because Kirk is kind of the macho commander guy, and Sam's more of a scientist, right? He's more into the science stuff, and also I think Sam exists maybe for that conflict with Spock, right? Because he was just on Spock's case, right, down in the Peregrine.
Yeah.
And it's the passion, the Spock Kirk thing or the Spock McCoy thing is like nonstop in this stuff, right? This kind of like passion versus reason,
right?
Kind of,
the triumvirate.
So I think that may have a part of it. We didn't get a lot of what's her name, the helmswoman in this episode.
Ortegas.
We didn't get any Ortegas.
Well, she had to fly the ship. She had to fly the ship to the colony to drop off the MacGuffin.
And we didn't really get Una either.
No, she had to go for
they both were gone.
the MacGuffin that they need to bring.
The MacGuffin.
The MacGuffin. We need to bring the MacGuffin to the planet.
Guys, let's all be honest though. If Una and Ortega were there, it all would have been fine.
Exactly.
Hammer would have lived. That's why
That's
we
right.
couldn't have them in this episode. Hammer would have lived, and then
right.
Uhura would have left. That was the choices we had to make this episode.
Right. It's amazing that someone on the internet I recently read. Someone said that Star Trek, growing up watching Star Trek, really put me in a place to be disappointed in the real world, because I watched a show where everybody is capable and respectful of each other.
Yes.
And now I'm going to the workforce and I'm realizing everyone here doesn't know what they're doing and nobody likes each other.
Oh no, it's true.
So true.
It's always meant to be the UN in space, right? It's always been like this kind of ideal society in space that I think Roddenberry had that in mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to bring up Hammer one more time. It's such a bummer not to have any more Hammer. And when we talked about episode 8, you talked about him as a prophet. And in this one, he's kind of the Yoda. He's kind of the wise. I mean, all throughout, he's been the wise voice, the blind. And the fact that he's blind is interesting.
Yeah.
The kind of blind prophet is a ancient figure. The blind one who still sees, right? And sees with a wisdom and depth and plays a mentoring role in Uhuru's life. And he's edgy and sharp, which is also much like a prophet. But he's the wise one. He's the oracle. He's got so much depth. If Pike is kind of like the head of the Boy Scout troop.
Yeah.
This guy is the wise elder. And losing him is a real loss.
I love the Andorian race of Star Trek. I think they're very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's fun to. There's one of the things that's happening in our moment of media is this ability to excavate deeper into the narratives and explore all the possibilities, right? Because when I was growing up, and sadly with like Gilligan's Island and that stuff, you got kind of used to kind of a pretty cheesy.
Yeah.
Repetitive, thin gruel. And here's, which you probably couldn't replay and find a lot of depth in, but Star Trek, this platform that only lasted 3 years in the 60s, and that I only caught in reruns growing up. Persists with all these, because you've got space as your canvas, and you got these really interesting alien races and it's fascinating how it can just keep getting deeper, and you can even take the same character over and over again, like Khan, and find new stuff in it. It's just, I just think it's fascinating. It's like fan fiction gets to be now broadcast.
That's that's exactly what kind of happened in Star Trek at some point. At some point, when Deep Space Nine was running. The kids who grew up watching Star Trek suddenly got to be in charge of Star Trek. And that's what changed the dynamic of Star Trek. is the people who started making the second half of Deep Space Nine, started making the Voyager, started making the Enterprise. These people didn't just invent Star Trek; they love Star Trek.
They do.
And that's what I think is happening in Strange New Worlds. Someone at Paramount said, "Why don't we just do Star Trek as Star Trek? Get away from the hyper." Like the hyper long form storytelling of Discovery, where everyone has feelings and everyone talks about them, and which is great. I don't. If you like disco, that's great.
I like disco.
It wasn't for me. Michael Burnham is. She's Michael Burnham. I'm gonna end my rant before I get started.
You said something really cool there, though. That it's so when you're watching something where it's clear that the writers love the subject and they love the characters. I think it shines through. Like I have a aversion to novelists who don't love their characters, who are kind of the novelist as sadistic god. You know, the writers here are kind of a loving god of this franchise. They want to take it to the right places and they want their people to unfold and they want to give them reality. And I think that communicates. I think it communicates that they love what they're doing. So I'm really glad you said that. And you can almost see it in the evolution of Trek itself, you know, when you had that first Star Trek, the movie, which is awful, so bad. We can all agree, Star Trek, the special effect was horrifying. Well, that's what it was. I mean, I got a laugh out of Tyler. Amazing. Well, because I saw it in the theater, man, when it came out. And long, tedious sequences of the ship going through whatever and to a dumb ending. And it was just like they were trying to find their way and they couldn't figure out what to do next with Trek. So then they recycle the Khan story and they start getting back on the right track, right? Still a high level of cheesiness.
Right.
But it's just fun to think of it as an evolutionary growth of the series. Like the Bakula series, Enterprise, it was one of my all-time favorites because I think it just really got back to real, you know. Sorry, we can geek out all day on this. But
okay. I loved Enterprise. Enterprise was the first new Trek that I was able to, as a person, like interact with.
Yeah.
And I came because I heard Scott Bakula was in it, and I was just like, oh, Scott Bakula, Quantum Leap. I love Quantum Leap. I didn't watch Quantum Leap in original run, in first run. I watched it in reruns, but to bring that story arc, which is that person from that kind of storytelling into Star Trek, I thought was a great choice.
Yeah.
If anybody listening hasn't watched Quantum Leap, as a Christian, watch Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
It's a really great show to kind of show, like, you know, do good in the world, be a force for good.
Yeah. And I'm just going to make my plug for Lower Decks because I think there's a ton of love for the Star Trek universe in that.
Oh yeah,
with a great sense of humor and a funny self-consciousness.
Oh,
like
absolutely,
like the awareness of their own history as Star Trek.
Right.
And like they'll comment in the moment. Oh, it's another one of those courtroom scenes.
Yeah, Lower Decks is great. It died too soon. They ended it too soon.
Yeah, I want more.
5 seasons was not enough, but I understand that Tawny Newsome, she's getting her own Star Trek show.
Ooh, love her.
And they're going to be doing Star Trek Starfleet Academy coming up soon. That's with can't think of her name. One of the ensigns from Discovery is going to be running that show, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, did anybody have any other final thoughts?
The Gorns scare the hell out of me.
They should.
They're a lot.
They are scary, and they kind of represent evil, right? They're chaotic,
pure
evil.
Yeah, there's no redeeming.
There's no redemption. Can you imagine trying to write an episode where the Gorn were redeemed somehow? No, it's how do you do it? They eat each other.
Right. It's they eat each other, and it's kind of like the Klingons. The Klingons were bad with a big bad, but they've gotten stories told about them that change how you look at a Klingon.
Yeah.
And same thing with like Ferengi and the Cardassians and all of these evil characters. But we've never gotten a flushed out Gorn, and I really hope we never do.
Yeah, that would feel cheesy, wouldn't it?
Sometimes they can just be the bad guy. We don't always need to have a dramatic backstory.
They're the baddest bad guy, right? Because they I mean, they're, what's that word for it? Like they come out of your body. I mean, they're like
aliens.
They're like aliens.
Like the alien,
the scariest damn thing ever. They're like the Star Trek version of Alien. Oh, they're just. Ugh.
Yeah.
I love when La'an takes that one freezes and she smacks it with a pipe.
Oh yeah, that was very cathartic for her. I think.
Yeah, I think it was a good moment for her. I enjoyed it too.
But yeah. Anyway, I think this is a good place to end.
Yes, thank you.
Jarrett, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you or come see you on a Sunday, where should they go?
I hope they'll come to St. Luke's Episcopal Church here in East Greenwich on the corner of Pierce and Church Street. We have an 8 o'clock and a 10 o'clock service. We also have a 6 p.m. on Thursday, a contemplative service. And this is a very welcoming community for everyone. You will be welcomed, loved, and accepted here. And you'll also get to hear the riches of the gospel and participate in communion because we say all are welcome at the Lord's table, and we mean it. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and you can find me personally on Blue Sky.
Yeah. And that's all for this week. Join us next week. Next week, Drake will be making a return. And the bishop will be also joining us for that conversation about the last episode of this season of Strange New Worlds. All right.
I'm going to tune into that. Yeah.
Catch you guys in the next one.
Take care.
I'm going there to see my father. I'm going there no more to roam. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home. I'm going there to see my Savior, to sing His praise forevermore. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home.
Thank you for listening to Tea Time Theology, a ministry of St. John's Cathedral in Rhode Island. We would like to thank our producers, Ivy Swinsky and Taylor Wilkie. Special thanks to Mariah Akande and David Hines for this season's music. Additionally, we would like to thank our sponsor, the Episcopal Diocese of Rhode Island, and the Right Reverend Nicholas Nisley, as well as our guests today. Follow us at Tea Time Theology on all social medias.